Okay, so I'm sitting out here. God, where the hell am I? I'm out here at Route 10 off of Route 23. There's an intersection here. You may recognize it if you're from out here in Lancaster County. What is this? Clock Tower Plaza, 176, Interstate 176. I'm on my way out to get some more copper sulfate. And there's a windmill restaurant up here, which I've ate at once, and that was, to me, that was more than enough. I mean, it's cheap food, but it was cheap food. You know, there's a lot better places you can eat than that little windmill restaurant, and there it is. So if you're familiar with the area, this is the windmill restaurant, and it was about 15 years ago. I believe my daughter was not born yet, so it's like 16 years ago. But anyways, I am on my way to get that copper sulfate because I ran out again. And this will be the last batch of copper sulfate that I have to buy. I'm going to get a final 20 bags, which has been, over the last 3 weeks, has been 30, 20, 40, 50, 8, 9, 10, 60 some bags of copper sulfate, which means that was 60 sprayerfuls of 60 sprayerfuls of material out on the ground already. So 60 trips at between about, let's say, an average of about 35 acres per trip. So you can figure that out. So I'm down to about 40 more trips. I may be out before I get there, before I finish up, because I do have 3,700 acres. So anyway, well, we'll see where we go when we get there. But anyway, I'm just admiring the beauty of Lancaster County as I'm going out through here. You know, I mean, there's Twin Valley School up there. And, you know, the dairy that's here. Looks like somebody killed off their rye already over there. A couple of spots. They might have harvested it and chopped it into the silo already and then put in, say, peas and oats or something like that for their animals. They may have even, oh, there goes a corn planter. Oh, there's a corn planter. 3-point hitch corn planter, big one now. It's like a 8-row, it looked like. But anyway, yeah, that's an awful wide corn planter to be going down the road with. But anyways, I'm trying to get a lot of this ground done before we get our next cold snap. I had a real nice rain yesterday, and that worked out pretty good for me. But I just love this valley. Isn't that pretty out there? And it is just, there's some willows down in the valley there. They're starting to bloom. I don't know how many acres these farms are, but they're small farms, and you know, every Amish or Mennonite has a farm out here. There's some more willows. And they're just, as far as the eye can see, it's all dairy. And it is on the other side of on the other side of this also. I think they call this the Seven Valleys in Pennsylvania. I'm pretty certain it is called Seven Valleys. But the Seven Valleys, one of the Seven Valleys. But anyway, just a few minutes ago, I was sitting in a traffic light, waiting for an electric company to turn the light back on, I swear. And some little old lady ran into the back of my truck, putting the pintle hook that I have on the back of this truck through the grill of her brand new Chevrolet. And I'm hoping you can see this, but there's someone plowing with horses right there. It's kind of a common sight out here, but they plow with horses, and, you know, they just work the land. They work the land by hand, pretty much, you know, with animals or beasts of burden. I know that this is probably one of the more backwards parts of the country. I say backwards, and you know, I can't say that it's 100% backwards. I'm just saying that it's backwards to modern agriculture. They have this slower pace of life that they are mandated to maintain by their church. And, you know, just a little information on that. And I know some Amish men and women. Actually, the women don't talk to the English, but the men do. And only if you're in a business, and they're very shy about talking to us. But for the most part, the men will talk, and they don't give up too much information. The younger generations do. But for the most part, they are required by the laws of their church, and I'm in Churchtown now, but by the laws of their church to have steel wheels on their implements, their horse-drawn implements, and I had to ask why, because steel wheels are that's one rough deal. And the young man, his name was Justin. Justin. I won't mention his last name because it's just not fair to him. But Justin says, if you can talk to the bishop, and I believe he called him the bishop, and get him to allow me to use the rubber tires, I would appreciate that, even though we won't be able to use the rubber tires. And I said, so why is it that you use steel wheels? And his answer to me was, to slow us down. We have to live a slower pace of life. And here's some alfalfa, actually. This is a really nice farm here. They got alfalfa and rye and wheat planted in these strips here. That's alfalfa. Very nice ground for growing alfalfa in. But anyway, yeah, so he says it's to maintain a slower pace of life. And, he said, but we can all promise to go as slow as we do with the steel wheels. He said, and still use rubber wheels because the rubber tires actually are easier on the equipment. So apparently the equipment is getting beat up because of the steel wheels. And they have come up with some pretty ingenious ways of running steel on rubber. I've seen them take rubber strips and mounting the steel on these rubber, combs, like they look like, they're rubber wheels, inside, and then steel wrapped around the outside. They get pretty ingenious, and I guess it's legal as long as the steel is hitting the ground and not the rubber. The old thing that I had heard years and years ago was that the rubber poisons the land, and that's why they wouldn't use that. But I kind of agree with Justin's explanation. It's a slower pace of life, and I got to look back on my life too, and I think to myself how fast I have to move just to make a living in agriculture. And I look at these people, and they're going slow. They're farming small pieces of land. They're using plastic. That's actually, that's plastic also, to get a jump start on their vegetables. A lot of them do vegetables, and I'm in East Earl Township now, but Goodville, that's where I'm at. So, they just have to have this slower pace of life, but life today is not slow. And even though they want to insulate themselves with the outside world, they have to use the outside world to maintain their lives, because it's just there's no money elsewhere. So they don't do agritainment, but they do vegetables and fruits and things like that, and they cater to the English, as they call us. But anyways, I hope you learned a little bit. Here's a magnolia tree. What a pretty tree. But anyways, I hope you learned a little bit of my knowledge, of the Amish and the Mennonites. There's also they can't drive cars, and there's somebody going to way out there. They're going somewheres in a horse and buggy. And that's one thing. They're trying to stay off the main roads with the horse and buggies because there's so many accidents anymore from people talking at cameras and phones and things like that. So, yeah. But anyway, again, here's another beautiful view. Usually this guy here, he's always plowing. I get out here in the spring quite often, and you get to see these. And that's another problem over there. There's developments, because everybody wants to live where the Amish live. And it really upsets the Amish and the Mennonites when one of their own sells out to a development. I was at a sale one time out here, and this video is getting long-winded, but I was at a sale out here one time delivering rye, and there was a couple of guys, and they were laughing at this one guy. They were literally laughing at him. They're calling him kind of stupid, and I thought that was wrong. But the reason they were calling him stupid was because he spent over $1 million on a farm, and so I don't know how he could possibly earn enough money to pay for that farm. I'm actually going to go right past the place, but anyways, he spent over $1 million on his farm because I believe it was family land, and they have like communal living out here now because there's not enough ground anymore for the new generations to come in. And they'll move to New York and settle up there. Now they're moving all moving out of New York because of because it's so friggin' cold up there. But anyway, I guess that's enough of me rambling on about things I know little about. But anyways, hopefully I've enlightened you a little bit. Anyways, thanks for watching. Please comment, rate, and subscribe for more.